It's August 1940. France has just fallen to the Nazis. London is days away from the Blitz. America is officially staying out of the war, and a lot of people in America want to keep it that way. Now picture this. A British director walks into a Hollywood studio and makes a spy movie that secretly tells every American in the theater that the war is coming, whether they like it or not. That director? Alfred Hitchcock. That movie? Foreign Correspondent. By the end of this episode, you're going to look at it in a completely different way. Welcome to Cracking the Code of Spy Movies, where we decode what the movie makers put in your favorite spy movies that most people kind of miss. I am Dan.
And I'm Tom. Stick with us to the end. We're going to tell you exactly where to find Hitchcock's cameo in this one. And it's trickier than you think. I missed him the first time. So why does this movie matter? So Dan, let's set the stage. You said the movie came out in August of 1940. Europe is already at war. America is officially neutral. Hollywood studios were being very careful. Nobody wanted to make anything that looked like it was pushing the U.S. into a fight.
And here's Hitchcock, who had just moved over from Britain, basically saying, I don't care. He built a political warning right into what looks like a straight thriller. And the U.S. government actually monitored the movie because they thought it was too pro-intervention. Whoa.
Yeah, but get this. President Franklin Roosevelt, he loved this movie, and he invited the cast to the White House.
Which tells you everything. Hitchcock was doing what the best spy movies always do, using entertainment to say something real. The movie opens with a scroll on screen dedicated to the foreign correspondents who were the eyes and ears of America during the war, the journalists who risked everything to bring the truth home. That scroll sets the moral weight of the whole movie right up front. I actually liked that and thought that was very clever.
Exactly. Well, and it fits for the title of the movie, Foreign Correspondent. All right. And just to be clear for anyone who hasn't seen it, in the movie's timeline, the war hadn't started yet. There's this sense of dread everywhere. Everybody knows something terrible is about to happen. And Hitchcock, as he normally does, he uses that tension brilliantly. In real life, the war had already started. And this movie shows us the just before action.
Yeah. So here's the basic setup. Let's talk about the story. The story is the key. We open at the New York Morning Globe. The editor-in-chief, Mr. Powers, is not happy. His foreign correspondents in Europe are sending him cables that he thinks are useless. He doesn't want correspondence, he says. He wants news.
Okay, so what does he do about that?
He picks Johnny Jones, a reporter who has zero foreign experience, but has what Powers calls a fresh, unused mind.
That sounds like an insult.
Yeah, you gotta spin that to figure out how that's a compliment. All right. Powers even gives him a fake name, Huntley Haverstock. And he says it sounds more important than Richard Harding Davis, who he says was one of our greatest war correspondents 40 years ago.
That's kind of an interesting name because Richard Harding Davis was a correspondent in real life, and he lived from 1864 to 1916. But in real life, he wasn't a war correspondent. He traveled to exotic locales and brought news to people from these faraway places. So it's interesting that he would make that comment because this guy really wasn't a war correspondent.
Yeah, kind of like what the Bond movies did later. All right.
Yeah.
And honestly, the dialogue in that first scene is so sharp and quick that you immediately know this movie is going to deliver.
Now, this Jones guy, or Haverstock, it's the same guy, is played by Joel McCrea.
Yes.
What's his actual assignment other than I'm going to be a war correspondent?
Yeah, well, he's got to do stuff. He's got to go overseas. He's got to go track down a Dutch diplomat named Van Meer. Van Meer holds a critical clause from a peace treaty entirely in his head. Nobody else knows it. The fate of European peace may depend on what this man is thinking. That's our MacGuffin in this movie.
Well, this is really Hitchcock reusing a setup that he used 5 years earlier with the Mr. Memory character in the 39 Steps.
Oh, yeah.
He had one person who knows the one thing everybody needs badly, and they're willing to kill for it. It isn't written down, but it's only in this guy's memory.
Yeah, exactly. And once Jones ships off to London, on the Queen Mary, by the way, the plot kicks into gear. He meets Stebbins, the Globe's crusty London correspondent, who has no interest whatsoever in showing the new guy the ropes. In his tutoring of Haverstock, Stebbins tells him,
"Oh, here's some cables that have been coming over from New York. They love to cable from New York. It makes them think that you're working for them."
that's a good line, right?
That is.
And he's working for them. Again, great dialogue. And this is a fun relationship throughout the movie. Stebbins is this crusty correspondent who wants to do everything his way, if at all. And the new guy,
If at all.
the new guy, Jones or Haversack, comes in and wants to make a name for himself. The dynamic is done very well. And then things get dangerous pretty fast.
Yeah, now this story about this war correspondent really feels like it's a real story. And so is there a reason that I'm getting that sense?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this movie for a long time. I mean, we have 350 something episodes out now, and we're just getting
360.
yeah, we're just getting the Foreign Correspondent. All right, Foreign Correspondent is loosely based on the memoirs of journalist Vincent Sheehan, who covered the rise of fascism in Europe firsthand. But Hitchcock and screenwriter Charles Bennett, they dug deeper. Several characters were inspired by actual Nazi agents who were operating in the Netherlands and Britain at that time. Hitchcock had been following these cases very closely.
Okay, so then this Jones / Haverstock, we should just pick one. We're going to say Jones for the rest of this thing. It's the same guy. Now, he receives this cable at his hotel, the Carlton Hotel in London. And yes, there was a Carlton Hotel there. It opened in 1899, and it was founded by the Swiss hotelier Caesar Ritz. Yeah, that Ritz.
Wow,
Now,
okay.
this hotel was badly damaged by German bombing during the actual war, and unfortunately, it never reopened. And there's an organization here called the Universal Peace Party in the movie here. That's not some made up organization.
Right. That's a clear jab, actually, at American isolationist groups that at that time had been infiltrated by Nazi sympathizers. Hitchcock couldn't name them directly, but he could hint at them, and audiences who were paying attention knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, so he could use the word Nazis, but he couldn't use this one. Okay.
All right, let's go to one of the biggest scenes in the movie here, the assassination scene. And really, this scene is amazing. It's a technical breakthrough, really.
It really is, because there's this assassination that happens. We're not going to tell you who it is, but it's in the rain. And it is one of the most famous scenes in the movie. So, Dan, why don't you walk us through this?
Jones is in Amsterdam, and he's arranged to meet Van Meer at a political conference. Jones is waiting on the steps, and then on the steps outside, in the pouring rain, a man gets shot. The killer vanishes into the crowd of black umbrellas.
And you really can't see what's happening there. I mean, it's the whole point. The killer is obscured. He gets underneath all these umbrellas, and you're not exactly sure where he is. And it feels like it would be really realistic. If you were in that environment, it would feel like that, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. This scene is a masterclass in misdirection that Hitchcock fills the frame with umbrellas, and you can't see. The rain is so intense. Real water pressure, by the way, not fake rain, that the actors could barely see. So Hitchcock had real water pressure thrown on these guys. And we, as the audience, are squinting right along with them, searching for the shooter, completely disoriented. It's chaotic on purpose, and you almost feel like you're going to get wet. That's how good the scene is and how well done Hitchcock orchestrated this. Wow.
Yeah, this guy gets shot, and it's from this camera guy. So it kind of looks like the camera has the gun in it, and it's kind of a disguise. I mean, is that really right?
No, it's sort of. I mean, the assassin raised the gun right next to the camera, Although you hear a lot of stuff people talking about the camera was a gun. It really was. You could see clearly there's a gun on the side of the camera. It blended in visually, and that wasn't fantasy. British intelligence had already been experimenting with disguised weapons, of course. Hitchcock was pulling from real spycraft. The scene feels so modern because it's grounded in how these things really happened.
Okay, so let's move to another really famous scene in this, and it's the windmill scene. And to me, this is Hitchcock at his sneakiest. Do you agree?
Yeah. Jones notices this windmill that's turning against the wind. Okay. So you're going to be a little suspicious, which, if you're not a windmill expert, and most of us aren't, you might not even catch. But it signals that something is wrong. And inside that windmill, a secret Nazi hideout. Reversed movement of the blades identified it. So all of this is going on. We're jumping from scene to scene here just to give you the concept of the quality of this movie and the impactfulness of these scenes.
Well, yeah, and the thing about this windmill is that detail about the thing going backwards, it would be really easy to miss. And it's really kind of a metaphor. I think it's Hitchcock's way of saying something in Europe is moving in the wrong direction. And again, you and I probably would have missed this if we were driving down that road, which is why this would have been an effective deception in real life. It's a great signal because it'd be very easy and most people would miss it.
Yeah. And the deception is deliberate. It would have been an effective deception in the real world, too. You don't notice one windmill turning the wrong way unless you're paying very close attention. Hitchcock is saying the wrong thing is right in front of you if you know how to look, which is a perfect metaphor for what he's doing with this whole movie.
Yeah, and I love when you get inside that windmill. That interior of the windmill, Hitchcock designed it based on some actual Dutch resistance safe houses because he had access to British intelligence briefings. So the setup inside the windmill was really cool. To me, it was a great dose of authenticity.
Yeah, the authenticity isn't accidental either. And then there's the visual detail that most people miss. The shadows cast by the rotating blades inside the windmill form shapes that I think suggest swastikas, but warped and distorted, which, is another metaphor. Like the like the ideology itself is broken. So I think that was excellent. He's doing visual propaganda without ever saying the word Nazi. That's next level filmmaking. It's
But it
got
is. It is. And I think this whole sequence is just shot so beautifully. The way the camera creeps instead of making cuts. There's long, slow tracking shots. The light slicing through the slats make it look like prison bars. And the rhythmic shadow from the blades rotating, it creates a tension without a single word being spoken.
And Rudolph Mate, the cinematographer, was fantastic. We'll talk about that. Now, Joe McCrea, if you look at him throughout this whole movie playing Jones, he really kind of is an anti-Bond prototype. So let's talk about this guy. Joe McCrea plays Jones to the max. He's terrific. He's a newspaper reporter. He is not suave. He is not a trained.
He's not suave.
No, he's not James Bond in any stretch of the imagination.
Well, that's completely the point.
Yeah. And Hitchcock originally wanted Gary Cooper. Cooper turned it down because he thought the script was lightweight. Boy, wow. He later said it was the biggest mistake of his career. Okay.
Ouch.
Yeah. But McRae brings something Cooper might not have brought to this role. There's an everyman quality to him. You genuinely believe he's just a reporter way in over his head. That's how good McRae does in his role here as Jones.
Well, and that's kind of what Hitchcock did with Robert Cummings in Saboteur. We have an episode on that.
Yes.
That formula put an ordinary person in extraordinary danger, and the audience feels like it could happen to them. It's not some pretty boy up there. It's an everyman. And Hitchcock returns to that well again and again throughout all of his movies.
That's the beauty of all the Hitchcock movies where the innocent person is pulled into espionage. You must feel it could be you. That is even more loudly shown in The Man Who Knew Too Much with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, it is. And it's what makes movies like this still hit. You don't need the main character to be superhuman. They don't have to be a super spy. They don't have to wear a cape. You need to make them feel real.
For me, again, when you stop thinking that's a good performance and just accept the person on screen, when you believe they are really who they say they are and who they're supposed to be on the screen, that's when a movie works. And
Yeah.
McCrae pulls that off completely.
Yeah, so he's really good, but what about the rest of this cast?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a really strong cast across the board, really. Lorraine Day as Carol Fisher gives the movie some warmth and a bit of breathing room because the movie is intense. There's a lot of dread in it, and she brings something human and maybe a little light to the scenes that you need sometimes to give yourself a break watching.
Yeah, I really liked her character and her performance in this. All right. Now, another one who I thought was really good was Herbert Marshall. He plays a guy called Stephen Fisher. This character and the way that Marshall portrays him is very polished, very calm. You like this guy right away, which makes the movie's moral complexity work. And I'm going to stop at that.
Yeah. And you got George Sanders, who plays Scott Folliott. 2 F's, by the way, in Folliott. And they make a point of that in the movie. I mean, it's an absolute joy, actually. Dry wit, completely effortless charm. He steals every scene he's in. George Sanders here. Pay attention to him as Scott Folliott.
Yeah, so you say there's 2 F's at the beginning of his name. Let's listen to this clip, and you'll understand why.
Nice to have a start, Mr. Folliott.
With a double F. How do you do? How do you do? I don't get the double F.
At the beginning, old boy, and they're both small F's.
It can't be at the beginning.
One of my ancestors had his head chopped off by Henry VIII, and his wife dropped the kettle and letter to commemorate the occasion. There it is.
Now you say it like a stutter.
No, just straight for.
All right, Sanders was also in Rebecca, another Hitchcock movie that was released the same year as this one. He also did The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is a fabulous movie, all about Eve, another great one. And you can see why. He was this kind of actor who could say a lot with a raised eyebrow. Again, fantastic body action and everything else that adds to the role that he's playing here in Foreign Correspondent. Terrific.
Yeah, now there's then this other actor, Albert Basserman. We mentioned the character Van Meer. He plays Van Meer. Basserman was nominated for a Best Supporting Actor for his role in this movie playing Van Meer. I thought he was just fabulous as this character.
Yeah, here's the thing that blows my mind about Albert Basserman. Albert Basserman could not speak a single word of English.
Wow.
None. None. Every line he delivers in this movie, he memorized and performed phonetically.
Jeez.
He had no idea what the words even meant, and he got an Oscar nomination for this.
That's crazy.
That is genuinely one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard about a movie performance.
If you think about it, normally in that situation, they dub the actor. And they did that with Goldfinger, but here, Basserman somehow made this work. I mean, it's really a fantastic acting performance, forgetting the fact that he didn't know the language. But you add that to it, it's just stunning.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So we're talking about him and his dialogue and that he did it phonetically. Let's talk about the dialogue in general.
Yeah, and we'll make this all about the writing. I think the dialogue's an important part of it, but there's also the overall structure. And the dialogue is one of the things that makes this movie hold up after all these years because it's fun.
I thought it was terrific. It's sharp. It's precise. It's witty. It's almost like every word was chosen the way a poet chooses words. Credit goes to James Hilton and Robert Benchley for the dialogue. And yeah, that's the same Robert Benchley who plays Stebbins in the movie. The screenplay itself came from Charles Bennett and Joan Harrison, who were both nominated for an Oscar for it.
All right. Now, Bennett was no stranger to Hitchcock. You've heard his name before on our episodes. because he wrote the 39 Steps, he wrote Sabotage, and The Man Who Knew Too Much. He knew exactly what Hitchcock needed and how to make Hitchcock tick correctly.
All right. All right. Here's a little fun detail. There was an uncredited writer on this project. Any guesses?
Ian Fleming.
Oh, that would have been good. No, close though.
Ah,
It was Richard Maybaum.
oh, okay.
Who went on to write or co-write 13 of the James Bond movies. So there is a 007 DNA hiding inside the 1940 Hitchcock movie. That's cool, right?
Dan, we've talked about this even before we put this thing together about how we like the dialogue in this movie. What makes it so good?
The dialogue reveals character and the plot at the same time, which is difficult to do, revealing both. You learn who these people are through the way they talk and how they talk, not through someone standing there explaining to you the plot.
Like us.
Take the first meeting between Jones and Folliot. Jones is blunt, direct, slightly out of his depth, but too proud to admit it. Folliot fires back with dry, aristocratic sarcasm. In 2 minutes, you know exactly who both of these guys are, and you like them both. That's pretty good.
Well, okay, so that's strong dialogue, but the windmill scene actually does the opposite here because and I'll put it in quotes, the dialogue there is almost the absence of dialogue.
Yeah, well, that's one way of putting it. I like that. Inside the windmill, everything gets hushed. Half sentences, evasions, polite lies. The calmness of it is what makes it scary. Hitchcock loved that contrast, putting very ordinary, quiet words into extremely dangerous situations. When people are being too careful with their words, you know something is very wrong in a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's another set of dialogue that's totally different here because when they're on the ship, and that'll make sense when you watch the movie, Jones tells Carol Fisher that he loves her and he wants to marry her. And she says it right back. And he says,
Well, cuts our love scene down quite a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love that line for a lot of reasons. One, it's a great quip and it's a great comeback. And two, you can wrap it into the story or any story. It's like, okay, every movie's got a love scene or whatever. A lot of spy movies, they have that love interest. So we do love them. And and here it is where they're kind of making fun of it. I thought it was brilliant, actually. It's a perfect line. It literally says everything about Jones as a character. That blend of sincerity and dry humor, and Hitchcock peppers the whole movie with moments like that. Humor right next to danger. That contrast is what keeps you engaged and is a Hitchcock masterclass.
yeah, now you just said it was a perfect line. And I do think it makes for some really great dialogue. But if you think about it, if you don't just take what you're seeing and getting wrapped up in it, these two people barely know each other. I mean, what have they had? 5 minutes of screen time at this point, and they're going to get married?
Where's your willing suspension of disbelief, Tom? Come on. Hey, you've never heard of love at first sight? Come on. All right. Now, before we get into the cinematography, which we're going to enjoy doing because it's fantastic, let's give a few shout outs to our listeners who are kind enough to give us feedback on our podcast episodes. So, on our Luciana Paluzzi interview, who played Fiona Volpe in Thunderball, Bob Johnson, thank you very much. He said, I've heard it and she's phenomenal. Michael Fox told us, hey, great Bond girl and interview. And Tim Henshaw said, fabulous interview with Luciana, so gracious and articulate in all her comments, a beautiful spirit she is. All right. And on our Casino Royale 1954 podcast, Randy Hankins said, great episode. On our James Bond movie posters of the 1980s, we give a big shout out to Pietro Rossi, who gives us feedback often. He said, another good deep dive. Perhaps my personal nostalgia, the 1980s posters are my faves, along with the 1970s and 1990s. All right, thanks, Pietro. And for our Man Flint episode, Carl Hernandez said, I listened to it, and it's fabulous. Thanks. We love hearing from our listeners. It helps us create more content that's more meaningful for you. So we appreciate your comments. Keep them coming, and we'll make better and better podcasts for you.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate it. All right. So let's shift gears now. We talked about the dialogue. Let's talk about the visuals in this movie. Because this movie, I mean, okay, it's Hitchcock. Shouldn't be surprising, but it does look incredible even now.
Yeah. I mean, the cinematography done by Rudolph Mate is just fantastic. Rudolph Mate received 6 Oscar nominations in his career, including for this movie, Foreign Correspondent. And you can see why and feel why. The camera doesn't just observe the action, it moves with it. There's a fluidity to the whole movie that makes it feel alive in a way a lot of movies from the 1940s do not.
I think the assassination scene is a perfect example of what you're talking about because it feels like a newsreel. There's like a handheld energy here. It's slightly off axis, and I think it's chaotic on purpose.
Yeah, and I think it works because Mate keeps us slightly off balance, just like Jones is slightly off balance in the movie. We're scanning the frame looking for the shooter the same way he is. The umbrellas and rain creates this visual confusion that's completely deliberate. You almost feel like you're going to get wet, like we said, while you're standing there, and you're feeling what the actors on screen are feeling, looking for the assassin. I think that was like it's so well done. You really do feel like you're there looking with them.
That's the camera work, but the lighting is stunning too. We get these shadows playing out against lights throughout the movie. And as we said, the windmill's interior shots show this really well. Those rotating blades casting these rhythmic shadows on the walls, it creates a dread, and nobody has to say a word.
Yeah, and there's a great visual joke. I don't know if it's a joke in the Amsterdam hotel. It's more of a prophetic kind of thing. In that sequence, Jones is trying to escape. He's crawling out his window and he leans on a neon sign outside. And the sign says Hotel Europe. And as he's leaning on parts of this neon sign, the E and the L go dark. And the sign now reads Hot Europe, which in the 1940s was, to put it mildly, accurate. And again, prophetic of this whole war that was about to unfold all around Europe.
I also like the wide shots in the Dutch countryside. I mean, because for me, it made you feel exposed and vulnerable, I guess. It's like there's nowhere to hide. And the low angle shots of that windmill, Dan, I know when you go and take pictures of things, you love taking things from down low.
Yeah.
It almost makes the windmills feel alive. It's ominous. I mean, these are classic Hitchcock shots.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Mate and Hitchcock used deep focus shots constantly where the foreground is clear, but so is the background. And that lets Hitchcock hide threats in the back of the frame. You're always looking at multiple layers all at once, mirrors suggesting deception, high angle shots that make characters look small and powerless. Every choice is tied to suspense or the theme. It moves like a modern thriller. It just happens to be from 1940. It really is that well done. It's really
But it does feel modern.
Yeah.
And Hitchcock also uses crowds for visual texture. We see layers of people creating a fabric. In some examples, we mentioned the assassination scene, the streets in Amsterdam, the press conference itself. These are all examples of how people create this fabric. He choreographs extras like moving scenery. He guides the viewer's eyes through complex frames without any confusion, and he does it very elegantly.
Yeah. Hitchcock uses close-ups so brilliantly. He uses them as emotional anchors. He doesn't overuse them. So when he does use them, they hit you hard. And we must subconsciously at least start to wonder, why are we zooming in? What will happen? What does this mean? Again, his use of close-ups is masterful. Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the plane crash. There's another huge scene here, a plane crash. And the special effects here for 1940 are fabulous. The plane crash sequence is really one of the most ambitious effect sequences of the entire 1940s. Not the movie, but all movies from the 1940s. Wow.
Yeah, that was a really intense scene. I mean, really intense the way they shot that. So how'd they do it?
Yeah. The camera, first of all, stays inside the plane as it descends. So we're getting this whole concept of this plane going down from the inside of the plane. And it creates this claustrophobic kind of point of view, which again involves you, the viewer, in this scene. So for the people aboard, it feels claustrophobic. For us, it feels claustrophobic as well. The lighting shifts from a bright cockpit to dark ocean in seconds, instantly telling us we are now in the danger zone. And they use this giant water tank and a miniature plane. Full-scale cockpit was mounted on hydraulic gimbals. This is Hitchcock. The actors were literally dumped into the water on camera. And the shot of water rushing towards the camera lens as the plane hits the ocean, it still looks real and threatening. And he unleashed, I don't know how many hundreds of gallons of water on these actors.
These actors got wet in this movie.
I mean, it looked frightening, and I think it was a little risky for these actors, too.
What I love about this sequence you're talking about here is the effects are secondary to the suspense, because we already know this plane's going down, right? You're in there, you know it's going to crash, and Hitchcock makes you sit with that knowledge. He builds this dread before the impact, so when it comes, you actually feel it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Hitchcock difference. He wasn't just showing us a spectacular crash. He was making you dread every second before it happened. That was blockbuster movie making before the word blockbuster even existed. I mean, that's just fabulous stuff.
All right, now let's move into the music then, Dan, because you really like the music in movies. And Hitchcock hired a great composer for Foreign Correspondent. So why don't you spend a little bit of time on the score here?
Yeah, Alfred Newman composed this one, not Alfred E. Newman from Mad Magazine. Alfred Newman, the composer.
Yeah, this one's a little more accomplished.
Yeah, this Newman, he won 9 Academy Awards. And get this, was nominated 45 times.
Oh, so he's a slouch.
He scored over 200 movies, including Camelot, The King and I, and The Song of Bernadette. He was one of the best in the business.
So Newman has the bona fides. You're bragging about his background here. But let's be practical here. What does his score do to the movie Foreign Correspondent?
It does exactly what a spy movie score should do. It supports the tension without dominating the scene. The assassination, the windmill, the plane crash, the 3 big scenes we just talked about. The music enhances all of it without ever pulling your attention away from what you're watching. That's actually harder to do than it sounds. A lot of scores overreach. This one doesn't. Perfect.
Yeah, now, okay, you're praising here. But before we started to do this recording, you told me you had a problem with the score. What was that?
My one gripe is that there's no recurring theme, no musical DNA that runs through the entire movie. You know how Goldfinger and On Her Majesty's Secret Service have that central musical identity. This doesn't really have that. Everything else, though, works beautifully, I think. But a strong recurring theme, I think, would have made it even better.
Okay, I see how you would think that, especially with as much of a James Bond movie fan you are.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it would have been good.
Okay, so now let's talk about the message Hitchcock's trying to send here. The ending of this movie is remarkable. Jones delivers this radio broadcast from London, and he tells Americans that the war is real, it's coming, and they need to wake up.
It's too late to do anything here now except stand in the dark and let them come. It's as if the lights were all out everywhere, except in America. Keep those lights burning. Cover them with steel, ring them with guns, build a canopy of battleships and bombing planes around them. Hello, America. Hang on to your lights. They're the only lights left in the world.
And this is what makes it remarkable. The ending was not in the original script. France fell while the movie was still in production. Hitchcock brought in Ben Hecht, a two-time Oscar winner, who later wrote Notorious and Spellbound for him, specifically to write that final speech.
Yeah, now that final speech was very powerful, but didn't the studio almost cut that thing?
Yeah, they were worried about backlash. Hitchcock, being Hitchcock, insisted. So it's a good thing he did, because the timing is almost eerie. The movie was released on August 16th, 1940. The London Blitz started 8 days later on August 24th. The final broadcast wasn't fiction anymore. It was prophecy. Wow. That's how powerful this was.
It
All
really
right.
was. All right, now, before we get to the cameo at the end here, let's mention there's a very odd tie-in to another Hitchcock movie here. You were telling me about this ship story, something connected to this movie that had to do with a ship. What was that?
Oh, yeah. The crew was sent to shoot background footage in London and in Amsterdam, and they left the United States by ship. There were early reports, mistaken, that they were aboard the SS Athenia, which was the first British passenger ship sunk by a German U-boat during the war. They were not on it.
Okay, so what does that have to do as a tie? I mean, I get how it ties into this movie, but how's that tie into another Hitchcock movie?
Well, actor Judith Evelyn, who later worked with Hitchcock on Rear Window, 1954, fabulous movie, she's the woman who plays Miss Lonely Hearts.
Okay, great. How does this tie in to this ship?
I'm getting there. Evelyn was an actual survivor of the Athenia sinking. So,
wow.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it really is. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we teased this at the beginning. Where in Foreign Correspondent is Hitchcock's cameo, Dan?
Yeah, I tell you, if you're not paying attention, but it's a lot of times you're not paying attention, you're going to miss Hitchcock in these movies. But about 13 minutes into Foreign Correspondent, Hitchcock walks down the street reading a newspaper, the Evening Standard. That seems simple enough, but here's the detail. The headline he's reading was added after filming to match real-world events, and the headline visible on that paper, Poland invaded.
Okay, so Hitchcock turned his own cameo into a political statement, just like the movie was.
He wanted it to feel like he was reacting to the world in real time.
Well, and this is funny because normally I'm pretty quick at picking up where Hitchcock is in these things, but I totally missed it. Now, in subsequent viewings, I don't even look at the newspaper. But when I watched this for the first time, I'm looking at the newspaper trying to read the headline. I'm not looking at who the actor was.
Yeah. All right. That's classic Hitchcock, right? Hiding in plain sight. That's him. All right.
Okay, let's wrap this up by talking about where does this movie fit in the bigger picture. It earned 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. I mean, you think it won a boatload of them, didn't it?
Well, it lost Best Picture to Rebecca, which was also a Hitchcock movie that same year. And it didn't win any of the 6.
Wow.
Which is kind of wild, actually. Across Hitchcock's entire career, his movies received 46 Oscar nominations and won only 4. Nothing for Psycho, nothing for Rear Window, which that amazes me. Nothing for North by Northwest. Whoa. Hitchcock himself never won a competitive Oscar.
That's crazy.
He received the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award, but no directing Oscar. Just remarkable, isn't it? Given what he produced. That's
but I think really the legacy of this movie isn't about trophies, though.
No. What Foreign Correspondent did was prove that the spy movie could carry real political weight. It blended journalism and espionage. It used actual world events as its raw material. It pushed effects technology forward in a big way, and it showed studios that a thriller could be both wildly entertaining and genuinely important at the same time.
Yeah, I
So,
think for me, it's
well
the
done.
it's the missing link between the 39 steps and the modern spy thriller. Hitchcock
Okay.
steps through this.
Yeah. Without this movie, you probably don't get 3 Days of the Condor, The Bourne Identity, maybe even Mission Impossible. I mean, the DNA is right here in Foreign Correspondent. And it's worth watching just to see how much Hitchcock had already figured out before any of those other movies even existed.
All right. So one more thing. As of this recording, Foreign Correspondent is free on YouTube. It's about a 2-hour movie, and it is absolutely worth your time if you're a spy movie fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a wrap of our decoding of Foreign Correspondent, Hitchcock's overlooked spy masterpiece and one of the most important political thrillers ever made. It's part spy thriller, part technical miracle, and part warning to the world. And it holds up beautifully.
Yeah, and now we've decoded all of Hitchcock's spy movies. So check out the
Yes.
other episodes in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gotten great reactions to them too. So check them out. All right. So until next time, keep your eyes open, your mind sharp. And remember, in espionage, trust no one except us.
Thanks for listening.